Donald Trump was at a rally in South Carolina in order to support Republican Governor Henry McMaster. And of course, it drew a pretty large crowd and the media wanted to cover it. Among those in the media who covered the event were Jim Acosta, working for CNN. And there was a lot of harassment geared toward Jim Acosta as he was at that event. Some of those videos were posted online and I want to share one of them with you right now. Take a look.
To be here. I have every right to be here, man.
All right.
So if you can't tell, she's yelling, "Take him out, take him out." Well, there are no good connotations to that. At best, it's an awkward thing to say that she shouldn't be saying. But one is take him out of the building because we don't want press in the building. Well, then Donald Trump would complain that there aren't press in the building, first of all, let's keep it real. But second of all, it's got huge problems, obviously, for our form of government where we believe in freedom of the press. But by the way, it could be interpreted in the worst possible way, take him out.
Right. And so it wasn't just that woman. She just happened to be the one, I guess, caught on tape. And apparently at one point, Jim Acosta attempted to shake her hand and tell her, that he respected the United States. And the woman waved her hands and at him and basically said, "No, you don't." And what stood out to me the most, not just about this particular case, but all of the hatred geared towards CNN by Donald Trump and his supporters, is that CNN isn't even really, CNN goes out of its way to be neutral, I think. CNN will have the most incompetent, nonsensical Trump supporters on every panel just to prove that they're willing to provide a platform for the other side. And oftentimes their anchors are unwilling to fact check the people that come on. So it's just interesting to me that Trump has really decided to cling on to his hatred for CNN. He keeps saying fake news. He keeps referring to them as the opposition, and his supporters just go along with it. And I want CNN to kind of learn a lesson from that. Doesn't matter what you do to appear objective, right? If you do this false equivalency thing, you're losing in every way. You're not gonna get Trump supporters to like your shows. You're not gonna get them to respect the network. You're still gonna get harassed by them at these rallies. And you're gonna do a disservice to the American people by doing a crappy job in journalism.
Yeah, so I'm gonna go in a couple of different directions here. First off, I don't mind booing CNN at rallies. But there are things that Anna is saying that I totally agree with. So first of all, though, look at what CNN does. They got burned, and I'll tell you my role in it, and I don't mind it one bit, and I'll do it again. Okay, I have attacked the mainstream media, including CNN, at Bernie Sanders rallies, and the crowd booed them, and I was delighted. Okay, now in response to the Republicans, they pack all their panels with Trump supporters and 50% Republicans. In response to the Bernie Sanders supporters, they put almost no one on CNN that was a Bernie Sanders supporter.
Well, I mean,
so yeah, you could push them around if you're the right wing, and they'll say, "Thank you, sir. May I have another?" If you're a progressive, they'll say, "We don't care about you." And then meanwhile, they'll get called liberal. They're not liberal. They're not remotely liberal.
So can I actually give you a specific example? So back in the day, this was before the general election, during election season, Brian Stelter and his producers invited me on to I went on as the progressive, as the Bernie Sanders supporter, and the person representing the right wing was Scotty Nell Hughes. Now that clip went viral, right? Because I happen to be strong and I happen to fight back against Scotty Nell Hughes without cowering like most people that they choose to represent liberals, right? And I never got called back on again, at least not on Brian Stelter's show, right? And they don't like it. They don't like strong progressives who speak their mind and who actually challenge the nonsense that comes out of these conservative panelists.
And Trump and the Republicans, even well before Trump, got CNNs of the world to believe that they actually are liberal, when in fact they're run by a giant multi-billion-dollar corporation who does not want any change to the status quo. By the way, including Donald Trump. But they want Bernie Sanders even less. They have great disdain for progressives. And every once in a while they'll say, well, I mean, Van Jones is a real progressive. How about your 150 other anchors and people on air? They almost all voted for Hillary Clinton. But what bias? Bias? No, we're not biased. So I don't mind booing CNN. But there's a giant difference between us and the right wing. So, and maybe that's why they respect them and they treat progressives with disdain, which is ironic and it sends all the wrong incentives. Number one, we believe in freedom of the press, and we don't think they should be driven from the building. But but there's nothing wrong with engaging in a debate about that. Number two, it depends on the person, right? So I think Jim Acosta is actually a very good reporter. So, and there are other people at CNN, Alison Camerota and others that I highly respect, and I think do a wonderful job, right? But overall, the organization doesn't realize how enormously biased it is against the left wing. And so, yeah, I will boo that. Yeah, no question about it, overall for the organization. But to me, the most important part is when Trump says to that crowd, and as he did again this time, he said, the enemy of the people, I call him. Now, that is over the top. That encourages bad behavior. It's one thing to say that they are biased. It's one thing to say they are not covering things fairly, and that is totally within fair game, okay? But to say they are the enemy of the people, right? So that is inciting violence, and it's a terrible idea.
So I'm actually very mixed on this story because while I do believe that it's important for American citizens to look at our media and criticize it, critique it, and demand more from our journalists, you have to also understand the context in which this whole issue came up. This is a symptom of a huge issue that I think Americans in general should have a problem with. We are living in what's supposed to be a democratic system. I see it quickly deteriorating. One of the most important aspects of maintaining a democracy is ensuring that we have free press and that we don't rely on the state to determine the type of news that we should be watching. And what Trump is doing every single day, little by little, is pushing for state-sponsored media. State-sponsored media that is very favorable to him, that's very complimentary to him. Anything that, or any outlet that has the audacity to ever criticize him or speak truth to power is fake news. That is a very dangerous message to send to Americans, and people are eating it up. And so I would feel the same way if it was a Democratic president that I voted for. I would be disgusted to see him treat the media the way Donald Trump has treated the media that has been critical of him. It's unacceptable.
Well, I hear you. We definitely have a shade of difference here, Anna, because I think that inciting the violence and and trying to, like Brad Pascrell, who's now the campaign manager for the non-existent 2020 Donald Trump campaign, which likely will never happen because he's.
I hope so, but
right. Okay. Anyway, so he's their campaign manager. He says, take away Jim Acosta's press credentials. Well, that's a direct violation of the Constitution. So if a Democratic president attacked the press, and by the way, Obama calling whistleblowers enemies of the state in a sense also did that. And we went ballistic on that and said that was definitely wrong. We have been consistent on it from day one. Okay, we protect the press and we value the Constitution. On the other hand, I want a Democratic president attacking the press, because they are deeply anti-progressive.
Hold on. Look, it depends on the context, obviously, right? So if we're dealing with press that does fabricate stories because they are clearly against the president for whatever reason, then yes. But in the case of Donald Trump, the media is not fabricating stories. It's just not, right? They might make mistakes, as journalists do, and then they promptly correct their mistakes, which is a responsible thing to do. But then what does Donald Trump do? He'll latch onto that as proof that it's fake news. But no, journalists have made mistakes since journalism has existed. The responsible thing to do is correct yourself. I think that if a president is attempting to dismantle media and push for state-sponsored media because he wants complimentary, favorable coverage of himself, then that's a problem, whether it's a Democrat or Republican.
We agree on that. And so Like the other day, ABC made a mistake about a chyron. They're like, oh, fake news, fake news, fake news. No, the guy made a mistake. They made a mistake and they immediately corrected it. Unlike the right wing that never corrects anything. I deny it, I strongly deny it. Even in that same rally, Donald Trump, the pathological liar, again, made up a story about how he called Jimmy Fallon called him to thank him for his monster ratings. And Jimmy Fallon's like, I don't even have his phone number. One side is a bunch of pathological liars, and the other side is trying to do their job. I think they do oftentimes do a terrible job. Then they'll go and call it even. Trump says this, Fallon says this. Golly gee, I don't know. Well, you're a reporter, your job is to know, so why don't you try to figure it out instead of calling everything the Republicans do even, right? Yeah. So, look, we're gonna ask you guys too. And then there's one last funny twist here. First of all, question for you guys, is it acceptable to boo the media at political rallies? Yes or no? In my opinion, not acceptable to try to kick him out, not acceptable to do any of those things, but to boo them. And you guys will have different points of view on that. And especially on Facebook, you can click on the section of the video and vote, okay? And I'm curious what you guys think. We'll report that later for you guys, what the results are. And then finally, the funny part is, well, a bunch of these guys, not just that lady, a whole bunch of people came up and accosted Acosta, if you will. But then something funny happened. They started asking for his autograph. What?
And for shout outs on air.
And yeah, and they wanted, one of the guys who was most vociferous wanted a shout out on air. And I figured out why, Anna. So that seems incongruous. That doesn't make any sense, right?
Good word.
It's WWE to them. They came for a show. Trump puts on a show.
Yeah.
And they view Acosta as, in their little theater, one of the heels. They don't actually hate the heel. They think he's an actor in that play. So like they would want an autograph from The Undertaker, they want an autograph from Acosta because they think it's all a game. But the problem is, it's not a game. And it's not a game to those kids who were ripped away from their parents. It's not a game to the people we bomb, whether it's in Syria or what we do in Yemen with Saudi Arabia. It's not a game in all the ways it affects human lives. It's not a game in the tax cut that ripped away resources from the average American and gave it to the very, very top. Those are real life consequences. And these goofballs go to these events thinking, oh, this is so cool. We're gonna play a game. It's not a frickin' game. Two easy ways to follow the Young Turks. One is hit the subscribe button down below, then you're a TYT subscriber. And second is ring the bell. And when you do that on YouTube, you're notified of our videos.